like I said on example 5, we're going to do this in two ways. First, we'll do it as the proportion. That is, my arc length L is to my circumference as the measure of my arc is to 360. Now on this problem, I want to find A to B. So I'm just going to call that arc AB. Over my circumference, notice my diameter is 14, so my circumference would be 14 pi. Now the measure of arc AB is 80 degrees over 360. And then I like to reduce that. 80 over 360, they both can be divided by 10. And notice I can divide 8 by 4 and 36 divided by 4. So I'll get arc AB over 14 pi equals 8 divided by 4 is 2. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Most of you like to cross multiply, so you could cross multiply here. So I'll get 9 times arc AB equals, cross multiply the other way, 2 times 14 is 28 pi. So I'll divide both sides by 9. I'll get 28 pi divided by 9. And it says round to the nearest hundredth. I'll use my pi key here. So I'll take 28 pi divided by 9. Rounded to the nearest hundredth, I get 9.77. And that would be meters. That's one way to do it. Do it as a proportion. The other way to do it, I like to think I'm going to do it as a fraction. So I'm going to say the length of my arc equals m over 360, the fraction of the circle, times my circumference. So m is 80 over 360 times my circumference, which is 14 pi. Well, notice we already reduced 80 over 360. We said that was 2/9 times 14 pi. Notice we'll get 28 pi over 9. You get the same answer, 9.77 meters. I don't care which way you like to do it. Whichever way you found easier in this explanation, I would do it that way. Now we have some theorems we can look at here. And this says, hey, if I've got congruent arcs, I've got congruent chords. And we already know if you have congruent arcs, you have congruent central angles. So they're all related. Your central angle are congruent. That means your arcs are congruent. And if your arcs are congruent, your chords are congruent. I can go backwards, or I can go sideways, actually, with each one of those. Here's one that actually you can use. This is how you find the center of a circle. What I do is I draw a chord any place on my arc. So if I'm measuring like an archway and I got to cut out an archway, but I got to figure out where the center is so I can draw my arc on my wood so I can cut it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arc and I'm just going to make a chord going through those. Then I'm going to do the perpendicular bisector. And so I'm going to make it the perpendicular bisector. So I'm going to cut that in half at a 90-degree angle. And the line that goes through that at a 90-degree angle is my diameter. So if I know if a diameter is perpendicular to a chord, I know it's going to cut that in half, that segment in half, And also, it's going to cut my arc in half. Now, the next theorem is just backwards of that. It's probably what I was explaining to start with, that if I have the perpendicular bisector of a chord, then I know this is the diameter. And then the last part, remember we talked about congruent chords? If I have congruent chords, so if I know FG is congruent to JH, well, then I know they're going to be the same distance from the center of the circle. So I know LX and LY are going to be the same. Now let's apply that. And let me back it up here. On this problem, we're told J to K is congruent to L to M. See, they're marked congruent here. So I know they cut off equal arcs. So if L to M is 75, J to K is 75. So I get a 75 degree arc right there. Congruent chords go with congruent arcs. And now the next one is just backwards. I know D to E is congruent to F to G, so I know those segments are going to be congruent. I'm going to say D to E is the same as F to G, or in this case, 2x plus 6 equals 5x minus 9. And we're just going to solve that equation for x. So when I solve that equation for x, let's subtract 2x from both sides. And then when 5x minus 2x is 3x, well, let's add 9 to both sides. 15 equals 3x. So then we'll divide both sides by 3. X is 5. But on this one, I don't want just x. I want to know what F to G is. So I'm going to replace x with 5. 5 times 5 minus 9. 25 minus 9 is 16. And there's your answer. F to G is 16.